Okay, I got a question for you. If you were going to fly between New York and the west coast of the United States, and your only options were JetBlue Mint or Delta One, what would you choose? Personally, choosing JetBlue Mint over Delta One has always been really easy for me. I've done it twice already, from JFK to Los Angeles and then from JFK to San Diego. Both times it was amazing. It totally sets the bar for what domestic transcon business class service should be like. It's good. Now, I've flown Delta One several times in the past, once from JFK to Los Angeles and the other time from Atlanta to Seattle. Both times were really good, and this recent flight that I had from JFK to San Diego has really got me thinking. In my mind, if I compare it directly to JetBlue Mint in those past experiences, it's pretty much equal, and I really don't have an answer for people when they ask me, Scott, which do you prefer, JetBlue Mint or Delta One? At this point, I don't know. So I thought the only way to answer this question was to do a video about it and compare each product directly back to back in several different categories, ranking each airline on a scale of 1 to 10 in each category, and then adding it up at the end just to see which airline comes out on top. Seems pretty simple and fun, and I will say, just for full disclosure, that I have not scripted this video. This is totally off the cuff. The only thing that I have thought about beforehand is the categories. I know which categories I'm going to talk about, but I have not thought about what rating I'm going to give each airline for each category. So it'll be interesting once we get to the end, and then I add everything up, and then we'll see where we're at. And then hopefully we'll have a winner so we can answer that age-old question, JetBlue Mint or Delta One? Okay, so to kick this competition off, let's talk about the ground experience. Now, there's really no need to drag this out because we all know that Delta is just totally going to mop the floor with JetBlue Mint on this one, simply because there are Sky Clubs in every Delta One location, whereas there are no lounges at any JetBlue Mint location. JetBlue Mint doesn't have any lounges if you don't count the open bars that are at airports like Fort Lauderdale and Boston. They're basically open bars in the middle of the concourse and the terminals, and it's busy and noisy, and you have to pay for all your drinks, and of course you have to pay for your drinks in the Sky Club, but it's the principle of the matter. There are no JetBlue lounges. Delta Sky Clubs are really, really good consistently wherever you go. So this is the really easy category. Delta's gonna win this by a long shot. Let's give Delta a score of 9. Sky Clubs are really good, by the way. That's why it's so high, and they're everywhere. And JetBlue, 3. I mean, there are little pods that you can use at JFK, and there's those bars that I mentioned. But for the most part, the ground experience with JetBlue Mint just can't really compete with Delta One. Moving on to the next big category, seats. Yes, this is a big one. If you're like me, seats are what makes up the entire experience. If it's not a good seat, it's not a good experience. Who cares what the ground experience is like? Who cares what the food is like? It's all about the seats, right? Now, as I said before, this video is completely unscripted, so I don't really know what I'm going to talk about yet, but I do know that there's a lot to talk about simply because Delta One seats are a little bit inconsistent. There are several different versions flying around right now. 767-300 is its own product. A330 is its own product. 757-200 is its own product. And then of course there's the new A350, which is just amazing, which I haven't tried yet. But for the sake of comparison, we're only talking about transcon routes from JFK in the west coast of the United States. So we're basically talking about A330s, 757s, and 767s of Delta compared to JetBlue's single A321, which is consistent. You know you're going to get the same aircraft type. You know you're going to get the same seat. Whereas with Delta, you don't really know, and that's kind of a problem. I will say though that the JetBlue seat is simply amazing, especially those single seats. And it's by far and away the best business class transcon seat in the United States right now, simply because it's completely spacious, completely private. There are dividers that you can close, or the little doors, or whatever you want to call them. You can shut out the world if you're not feeling social. And it's just amazing. Now, I will say also that the Delta A330 seats are somewhat private. Along the window, there are single seats, but they're not as private as the JetBlue single seats. So I'm going to give this one to JetBlue Mint by a long shot. Let's just say JetBlue 10. Definitely 10. I mean, it's like I said, it's by far and away the best business class seat in the United States right now. So I don't understand how it could get any better. It's good. And then let's give Delta a solid 7. simply because it is a good seat. It's just a little bit inconsistent depending on what aircraft that you're flying. So 7 to 10 on this one, JetBlue wins. Okay, on to the next category. Food. Yes, this is another big one that I think a lot of people are going to care about. It's a very important topic because we all like to eat, right? So I'm going to kick this segment off by saying that the food that you get on both JetBlue Mint and Delta One is equally good. As I said before, I've flown JetBlue Mint and Delta One several times each, and every single time the food was excellent. And I can't really, I don't think there's one airline that does tastier food than the other airline, and I think they're both equally the same in that regard. But I think JetBlue Mint is going to edge out Delta on this one simply because of the way that they serve you. For example, on Delta One, they do give you choices. You can definitely choose usually between 2 or 3 entrees, and you just simply make your choice and that's it. And they'll bring you a tray with everything on it, like all the condiments and little fruit bowls and little desserts and stuff that comes with that entree. But on JetBlue Mint, it's a much more customizable experience, which I really like, because what they do is they present to you a list of options, usually 6, I believe, and then you pick 3 to build your own tray of food. And it's just a really unique and fun way of eating. And if you're a picky eater like me, it's a really nice option because you don't really feel forced to eat what somebody else is giving you. So for me personally, customization goes a long way. I really like that. I'm gonna give JetBlue a 9 in this category. The food is good and I like the way they serve. And Delta One is equally tasty, but there are fewer options. So I'm gonna rate Delta a, let's go with a 7 in this category. Moving on now, we've already talked about the ground experience, the seats and the food, and I think one of the other major factors when it comes to a really good business class product is the cabin crew and the way they interact with the passengers, the way they present themselves, the way they serve the meal, the way that they, just being attentive and being there, being friendly. It's really important. At least it is for me. So thinking back on my own experiences, I've got to say that both JetBlue Mint and Delta One cabin crews are amazing. I've got no issues. Every single time I've been on one of those flights, I've felt well taken care of. The crew is friendly. I've never had a bad crew in Delta One or JetBlue Mint. Especially this flight from JFK to San Diego that I took a couple weeks ago, that cabin crew was just exemplary. Just beyond what I expected, so that was really nice. And it's tempting me to rank them a little bit higher in this category than I was originally thinking before I started this video, but let's just think about this. So JetBlue Mint and Delta One, thinking on the fly here, like I said, this video is completely unscripted. Let's go with JetBlue 9 and Delta One 7. Okay, so let's break that down a little bit. Starting with Delta One, rating of 7, which is good. It's a good solid score, I think. Crews are really nice, consistent, no issues. The only reason why I ranked JetBlue a little bit higher is because of those nice little handwritten cards that they give you during the boarding process. You get to your seat, there's a little card sitting there with a handwritten or a hand-signed welcome note from each flight attendant, which is really nice. They addressed me by my name, and it was just very professional, very nice. Whereas I didn't really get that in Delta One. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, I'm just saying on the 2 or 3 flights that I've flown with Delta One so far, it hasn't happened to me. Again, maybe it's just an inconsistent product if they're actually doing that on some routes or some flights. I haven't had it, but I've had it twice with JetBlue, and given the nod to JetBlue on this one. Okay, we having fun yet? I don't even know what the score is because I'm just recording this video and I haven't really been keeping track in my mind of what the final tally is or what we're up to yet. So this is the last category, category number 5, entertainment. It'll be interesting to see where we end up after this one. So I'm gonna come out and say right away that entertainment isn't really a big thing for me. I'm not the kind of person who watches a lot of movies on planes. So thinking back on my experiences, let's just say Delta One 8, JetBlue 7. And yes, that is actually a very close score. It's almost the same, and for a split second there, I was thinking that I was going to rate them exactly the same. But I think I had to give the edge to Delta simply because the screens on their planes are consistently better. The JetBlue Mint product is actually, it's aging a little bit. It's still fantastic. Remember, I scored it a 10 in the seat category a little while back. But it is an old product. It is getting a little bit dated, and therefore the screens are a little bit smaller. The resolution isn't quite as good. The viewing angles aren't that good. And if you compare that to what you get on Delta One, whether it's the 767, A330, A350, whatever, screens are bright, vibrant. You can tell it's recent technology, and it just looks better. So I had to give the edge to Delta on this one. Okay, so there we have it. 5 categories: ground experience, seats, food, cabin crew, and entertainment systems. As I said before, completely unscripted, and as I'm recording this video, I'm just focused on making the video and not really keeping track of the scores that I gave each airline. So what I need to do is I need to cut away for a second and add all this stuff up. Let me do the math. I'm terrible at math, but I know I can do this, so give me a second. I'll be right back. Really? Okay, so this completely backfired on me. Like I said, this video is completely unscripted. I was trying to pick a winner. I thought this video was the way to do that, where I could just say, hey, you know, JetBlue Mint is the winner because, or Delta One is the winner because, and I could point people to this video if they ever ask me that question. But it didn't work out. And you know, just thinking about this, I guess this really just goes to prove that both Delta One and JetBlue Mint are fantastic products. It's really difficult to pick a winner. And as you can see, I'm having massive difficulty with it right now. Totally backfired on me. Hopefully I can save this video somehow. Maybe we need a bonus category of some kind. What could it be? Let's do loyalty programs. That's a good one. And again, I realize that talking about loyalty programs is a very subjective thing, and everyone's needs and tolerances differ, whereas I don't have as much tolerance for SkyMiles as I do for TrueBlue. So for me, TrueBlue, JetBlue Mint, that's the way to go. As far as my opinion on SkyMiles go, it's actually quite fascinating because I consider Delta to be the Apple of the airline world. Whereas, you know, iPhones are just getting more and more and more expensive every year, and it's so hard to buy an iPhone every year now. And even once every 2 or 3 years, they're just so expensive, but yet Apple keeps increasing the prices. And they do it because they know people will pay. They know they have a good product, they know people love their products, and they know people will pay that. Even though they grumble and they moan, they pay that. And Delta is doing the exact same thing with their loyalty program. They're just really crunching down on the numbers, making it so difficult to use, and people are putting up with it simply because Delta is a fantastic airline. They have a fantastic network, just a good overall airline. You know, one of the best in the US, probably maybe the best in the US, and people put up with SkyMiles. So I don't have as much tolerance for it, but maybe other people do. But for me personally, I'm going to give JetBlue Mint the better rating on this one. Therefore, giving JetBlue Mint the win. Anyway, I really thank you for watching this video and sticking through all the way to the end. I thought I actually botched this recording because I was trying to pick a winner between JetBlue Mint and Delta One, and then I ended up in a tie, and I thought, you know, there goes an entire morning wasted trying to record this video. But in the end, that just proves that both products are awesome. But I'd actually like to know what you think. If you had the choice between JetBlue Mint or Delta One, flying transcon between the West Coast United States and the East Coast, what would you choose and why? I'm really curious. I think we're gonna get a mix of answers. Everyone's preferences are different. I guess I've just proven that I like both. I don't have a strong preference over either one. Anyway, thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it. And we'll catch you in the next one.